Awesome. Who is enjoying today? I'm enjoying today. I'm having a great time. So I'm just about to bring on two epic, amazing women. So let's bring in Brigitte and Isadora. And the three of us are going to have a conversation together. Here we go. Can I get my little, look at that. Getting the little graphics up and everything. So the three of us are going to have a discussion around crossing the threshold into Crone and also tapping into your cycles. What I love about this is that the three of us sit in different life experiences right now and also hold clients through different experiences. So I feel like we've got, Isadora is really here. I mean, you're holding that maiden to mother energy is what I feel in you. It's like, yes, you're sort of beyond maiden, but at the same time, you're holding maiden and mother, and the fact that you hold women in their birthing time. It's like you're holding one end of the spectrum, and then I feel like it comes to kind of me in the center who's holding, a few different, I'm holding the women who are bringing this work into the world, but I'm also in the stage of perimenopause. So I'm definitely noticing the transition into Crone. I'm definitely noticing the initiation that is happening. And then with Brigitte being here, really representing the women who have had wombs, but who don't have that physical womb any longer, but are able to hold such an incredible magic through that journey even further into Crone from the experiences that you've had. So I am really excited for this conversation of the full spectrum that we are holding. So please, anyone who has questions or comments, make sure you put them in the chat box. I will put them up for us to be able to see and for us to be able to talk about. But I'm feeling like, Brigitte, I would actually really love to start with you, and then we'll just see where the conversation kind of naturally flows. Mostly because I feel like you're holding, which, we've spoken to so many times. I feel a little bit like I'm a broken record with saying this all the time, but you're holding for us with this work, with womb spiral work and with the temple, you're holding an activation for a lot of women. Like, there are so many women in the world who do not have a physical womb, but who don't talk about it. And there's a piece that you're holding where you do speak about it. And so I would love to really open with you and this crossing the threshold into Crone.
Thanks, Zapheria. I'm excited to be here. I feel like it's such a great energy for three of us to be here holding this piece. So, wow, where to begin? It's such a, to talk about the things that women don't talk about, honestly, can be really scary. It's like, who am I going to upset? How are women going to feel about what I say? And then because of the womb spiral, I've been able to go, okay, we're going to just pop that aside, Brigitte, little Brigitte, just, I got this, the adults got this. And yes, let's talk about it, because this is a space that it's like this unspoken, it's the secrets, it's this wisdom that is swept under the carpet. And I guess when I had a hysterectomy, I never knew. I knew that there was something coming. I just had no idea what it looked like. And all I did when I went into that surgery was just to feel everything. I just imagined this big white light around me. And the nurse came to me and she said to me, I have to tell something to you. I've never met a woman so calm to go into surgery. I went, really? Should never. Women are usually jumping off the beds, but I just really trusted that this was my destiny. This is where I was meant to be. And so the more I speak about my experiences, the more I speak about what happens in my body, the more I speak about that in my womb space, there is a womb and it's energetic and I can feel her. She lives, she's alive. She has her own cycles. And I trust that my body knows what it needs to do. My body is alive in its energy. And that's what I love about the piece that Isadora brings. It's like we have these cycles. they live, they breathe. Even though I don't have the physicality of a womb, she is very much alive, and the womb spiral has very much brought that into life. And I've been able to embody that more and step into so many other places in my physicality because of that. And I just know, I feel the moon. I feel like, I find it so amazing that we're doing this. You know, the full moon is tomorrow, and here we are, we're holding in the temple, and we're about to step into the cycle of releasing. And it's like, wow, this is a huge energy to be holding. But I feel that in my body. I feel the energy. I feel her rising. I feel everything about her. And it's a potent space. And our cycles are just, I feel like, more and more and more important because of what's happening in the world. We need to tap into this place now. It's like this is where our energy really deeply lives, and this is how we can come alive.
Yeah. So agree, Isadora. I can feel you. Share.
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm really honored to be here with both of you and with the community. I think Womb Spiral really invited me into the question of what is it to live cyclically? And throughout, Zapheria invited us to start tracking our cycles, and that really opened my world to seeing how month to month, day to day, we, especially as women, as those who carry the womb and the medicine of the womb, we are not the same. Our hormones are different, our energies are different, and we also see that reflected outside of us in life, in nature. There's seasons, there's times of day, there's waxing and waning of the moon. And then ultimately, if we can really zoom out, there's a life, death, life cycle that we are all a part of. And I think the moving away from that has been one of the greatest demises of our species, because to live cyclically is to live in an honoring and a reverence of life. And I am extremely passionate about our talk today, specifically really focusing on the time of the crone and the archetype of the crone, because especially in Western culture, there's this over excitement about the maiden archetype and youthfulness, and there's so much beauty there, and that's our inner spring, and we get to embody that month to month and go through those ebbs and flows. And there's so much wisdom and potency and magic and just connection to that which is greater that we can experience. For me, I'm still bleeding, and so the crone archetype comes out when I'm bleeding. And it's really this time of so much wisdom. The veils are the thinnest during this time. And we can see that also in women who are entering into the crone archetype, leaving the mother archetype, entering into crone, and just how powerful and amazing they are. And unfortunately, our society sometimes doesn't honor that. And so I'm really curious. I would love to ask you all to maybe share more about how we can reframe the crone phase and just some empowerment and any advice or wisdom for people like my age who I want to approach menopause and crone time with confidence and in deep reverence of that space. And so, yeah, I guess moving forward, how do we reframe that shift into crone? Zapheria, yeah.
Yeah, I love that question, because that's right where I am. So it's definitely something that I'm needing to journey with right now. And it's interesting. I feel like, there's this public perception that it is a time that women get old and crusty and dry up, and all these ridiculous, insane stories that we have been fed, but we've been fed them so intensely through the media that women start to freak out. I mean, the number of women that like, oh my God, I'm turning 40, or oh my God, I'm turning 50, that you don't really see in men, but you see it in women, because we've been conditioned that something happens to us and suddenly it's no good anymore. And the way I would really love to reframe that, like I'm actually really excited to be in this initiation phase coming towards Crone, because to me it feels like what a deep honor that I get to come to the time in my life where I am the wisdom holder, the wisdom keeper. I've lived enough of my life's experience and I have journeyed what it is to be alive in the time that I've been alive, which means that just because of that and my body's experience of bleeding and cycling and being connected to the earth, I do hold something for other generations that you cannot yet experience, I guess. Like, yeah, like Isadora, people in your age range, you would not yet be able to experience what I'm experiencing unless I share with you what that is. And it can be easy to, what I used to do is perceive it as like, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to go there. This is the most beautiful gift of a time of life, I feel, because I'm becoming more and more connected to the earth. I'm becoming more and more connected to my womb. I am owning more of my magic unapologetically because there's a deep, deep knowing of who I am. And I no longer need to worry about anything else. And when they speak about, the hot flushes that come or the mood swings that come, I'm definitely experiencing those. I've got a little sweaty upper lip happening right now. That's where my hot flush happens. Suddenly my upper lip starts to sweat. Actually, what it is the Kundalini wanting to rise. It's the Kundalini wanting to crack through and rise through the body, and therefore to let go of anything that no longer serves so that you can stand completely in yourself. And that to me is exciting and thrilling times instead of what we have possibly been fed by external sources for much of our lives.
Yeah, I love that piece, Zapheria. Thank you. Yeah. I would love to share also that there's something for me that was very potent around having a hysterectomy. I didn't go into full-blown menopause, but I was experiencing a lot in my body. My hormones were all over the place. I was all over the shop. But what I come to realize is that, as you've shared, Zapheria, is that energy of what's known as the sweats. For me, it's like, wow, what is my body telling me? What is she trying to talk to me about? What message am I not receiving? So how I experience it is that she's trying to talk to me. She's got something that I need to hear and listen. And it's really important. Otherwise, she wouldn't be doing to my body what she's doing. So I really trust in that. And I really trust, the word menopause. I'm like, I have a big reframe on that. I'm like, we are at a time in our lives when it doesn't serve us to push ourselves so hard with so much energy in that kind of warrior way and damage our physicality. That's what happened to me. I pushed so hard. I couldn't stand in the essence and the purity of the masculine holding presence and silence. I was in the pushing and the hard. I was in that energy. And so for me, the word menopause means come back to the feminine, come back to her, come back to our bodies, come back to our wombs, come back to birthing ourselves in a way that serves who we are as a feminine energy, not necessarily as a woman, but as a feminine energy. We need to come home to ourselves. We need to love ourselves, take care of our inner child, and just be the most authentic part of who we are and live and breathe and sit in the essence and the vibration and the frequency of that.
What I love about that is I feel like you just spoke what I feel is the transmission for menstruation as well. There really is a connection between our bleeding time and this time of life. Like, this is not the time to be out. This is not ovulation. This is not summer. This is that inner winter. It's the time to really come in and see and meet ourselves in our rawness, our wildness, our very much earthly, mortality and all of it, and shed and let go. And and continue cycling. And also a big thing I love to share is like, just because you don't bleed or you don't have a physical wound, you're cycling. If you're a human being on planet Earth, you are cycling with the stars, with the moon, with the planets, with everything, with life, with the seasons. And it's like my favorite thing to talk about. I'm so passionate about people living cyclically, because I see that return and that balancing of the masculine, the feminine, the light and the dark, the action, the doing, and the resting and receiving. That's what the earth is asking for. And that's what we are all asking for, if we know it or not, is balance. How do we come back into balance and harmony? And when we're out of balance, when we're out of harmony, that's where the pain comes. That's where the discomfort comes. The number of womb dis-ease women experience today is absolutely insane. Like, it's actually insanity. And I think so much could be remedied if we just took the time to deeply connect with our bodies and nature and our natural flow. Also, the three of us, we all have a different energetic flow, a different way in which we express, and the highs and the lows. And that's why I'm studying Ayurveda right now, and herbs. And it's like, actually, you learn everyone has their own energy and their own constitution and their own way. And I think it's just so important that people start to bring that consciousness of cyclical relating and being. And for me, honestly, this life, death, life cycle is what's keeping me sane in these times, where I can see, okay, destruction, chaos, uncertainty, fear, grief, loss. Okay, we're dying. Something's dying on this planet. And what comes after death is life again. And so that's that triple goddess, the maiden mother crone archetype. It's just these deep ancient teachings that have been lost and covered up, are like, here, they've risen. The feminine isn't rising, the feminine has risen. So it's just time to start honoring that. Like, we're here, this consciousness is here. It's to bring harmony and balance to earth. And because there's been so much emphasis on maiden, crone has not been honored. And in many indigenous cultures and just many traditions, the elder is honored. And I think that needs to happen again. And so I'm really, just honored to be here with both of you, and just feeling that, like, how can we, I guess a question I have, how can we support people entering into menopause, the crones, the elders of our society? What are some things you think we can start doing, especially the elder women of our society? How can we support them in their process?
That's such a beautiful question. I actually feel like supporting the understanding of cycles is a really, really big part of it. Whether they're still bleeding or whether they have finished bleeding, is understanding that, yes, our body does cycle, that life is a cycle, that we always still connect to the cycles, even when our own physical cycle ends, that it's still happening, even if we're not bleeding. I feel like that is really a big piece, because there's the grief. It's interesting. There's a combination of relief and grief for women when they stop bleeding. For a lot of women, by the time they are stopping bleeding, there is the relief of, oh, I no longer have that physical experience, because it's been difficult for them throughout their life. For me, I know it won't be a relief, but for a lot of women it is. But there's also the grief that starts to come of, now I no longer have something that my body had before. So it means something has changed. Whereas I feel like if we support women in tuning into the cycles of life and understanding that that is always present, no matter what is happening on the physical body, I feel like that is one of the big steps forward. I know it's been a massive support for me, and to just witness, because my cycle is changing, I'm not in the making it wrong. I'm in the, oh, that's interesting. My last cycle was only 20 days and this one's 44 days. Isn't that interesting? Instead of making it wrong. I feel like that's one aspect. But I also feel like the other is actually on a larger collective scale, is to start to be able to support, go to the women who are your elders and start to hold that respect. I remember witnessing my grandmother when she was going through her change, and when people would come to her and give her respect and ask her her opinion on things, I would see the crone come through, and I would see the wisdom holder come through, and I would see her brighten. And when people would treat her with disrespect and not recognize who she is and what she holds, I would notice it squash part of her. And so I feel like there's something that we can do as a collective of women working with wombs. And there's something that women with wombs can start to do is tune into the cycle, but also that just others can begin to tune in and to connect to, hey, these women are coming into being wisdom keepers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to add a piece to that as well, if that would be okay. I'd just love to add a piece about fear. And we live in a society mostly that there is a fear around transitioning, around crossing the threshold into crone. And I feel like that taps into our bodily responses of the sweats, of anxiety, of stress, of all those things. It's like women have been exposed to so much conditioning around fear of what happens on the other side. And I feel like, Zapheria, that taps into grief. I remember, I lost my womb, and I lost my cycles, I lost what I gave birth in my body with. And the grief that came was so huge. And so and what was I? Was I a woman? Was I a mother? What was I? What was I left with? Where's it gone? What's going to happen? Like all these things. And it's like, if we're able to begin to educate, to begin to women begin to be educated around, this is not a transition to be fearful of. This is a time to begin to embody your wisdom, embody what you truly have experienced in your whole life. Every single moment has been a gift for you to come to this place and to bring that into your words, into your family, into your business, wherever it is. It's like it's an opportunity for us to share with women, there is no fear here. This is just about you embodying the truth of who you are. That's what I feel like is a big piece of this work.
I totally agree. I feel like I have one more piece that wants to come through as well. And then I feel like someone had asked about wanting to understand a bit more about the seasons, which I would love Isadora to reply to. What I noticed as I was coming into, because I came into perimenopause reasonably early, like if I'm honest, it probably started 2 years ago, but I didn't know, right? I wasn't aware, which is freaking amazing for someone who works with the womb. This has been my work for 7 years. I had not been able to see within myself the hormonal shift and change that was happening until it got really quite intense. And what I noticed was my reactions to things started to change, and people started to respond really negatively to me because I was more emotional than what I have been in the past in my experiences. So I would have an experience with friends and they would be like, oh my gosh, can you believe that she acted like that? Oh my goodness. And there was a lot of judgment that happened and a lot of kind of pushing away from people for a few months until I understood what was happening. But by then, some of the damage was already done of the harshness of actually other women towards me. And what I feel like is, as a collective, if we can begin to see when women are coming to around their mid-40s, it could start earlier, it could start later. If you witness that there is a sudden fluctuation in what's happening with their moods, with their emotions, if they're crankier than normal, if they snap more easily, if they cry more easily, is instead of this judgment against, is can we lean into that? For our friends, can we lean in and start to see whether we can have the conversation or whether we just honor it ourselves? There's a shift and a change that's starting to happen for her, and can I hold her with love and compassion? So I feel like I don't know who that was for, but I feel like somebody needed to hear that piece. I feel like someone's coming into that space themselves. And so I would love, yes, someone had asked, it was Kyra had asked, would love some learning around menstrual seasons. I wonder if for the last few minutes is a good speak into that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is my favorite thing to talk about. But yeah, I wanted to say just again, Zapheria, it's like everything you were saying just now also again felt like a big piece of the transmission I give around menstruation. So I'm finding that connection very interesting and fascinating, and how I think for me, I'm starting to reframe like, oh, my bleeding time is that time of deep surrender and getting prepared for the letting go, the shedding that will come. And so, but yeah, so I work with the menstrual cycle in many ways, looking at the seasons, archetypes, energetics, hormones, and a lot of other kind of categories or ways to understand it. But I will start with the seasons. So I start day one of our cycle is day one of our bleed. And your typical bleed will last anywhere from 5 to 7 days. And that time corresponds to our inner winter. So you can just start to think about, this is just planting a seed. Okay, bleeding time corresponds with inner winter. What kind of energies am I feeling in the winter? What kind of foods am I eating in the winter? What kind of things do I want to engage with or not engage with? And so the inner winter is our time of death, letting go, renewal, rebirth. It's also the time where the veils are so thin and we're just connected to the cosmic womb, to the one. And it's just a potent, magical time. And then we journey to pre-ovulation. And this is the time of our inner spring, right? So after winter must come spring. Lauryn Hill, she knew what she was saying. After this death, comes that new life. And we rise. The maiden archetype comes out in the inner spring of like this flirtatious, innocent child in a way. We can play with that archetype a bit, and just the energy starting to rise and build, and then poof, we get to ovulation time, which really ovulation only lasts 2 to 3 days. So this is our fertile time. This is the inner summer. This is the time where we are embodying the mother archetype. And it's not mother like you have to give birth to a child. It's mother like you want to connect with everyone. Your birthing projects, you're the most vibrant. Our faces actually get more symmetrical when we ovulate. They've done studies on it. It's kind of amazing. You're the most attractive. You're just the most, juicy, right? You think of summer, like juice, fruit, yumminess. And then we go to pre-menstruation. That's our inner fall, our inner autumn. And this is the time that I think I could do a whole talk on pre-menstruation. Has been very distorted and made to be very wrong in our culture, but it is the time when the archetype more of the enchantress or the queen comes out, this very royal, sort of mysterious side of us, where a lot that we maybe didn't acknowledge or honor in the spring and the summer starts to come out of like, oh, okay, fall, right? Letting go what no longer serves me from this past cycle. And the leaves fall, and then we go back into our winter. So that's a very brief journey. But yeah, this is what I'm passionate about. And it's so simple in a sense, right? It's also thinking, okay, what foods do I eat in these seasons? And then, I go into the herbs and all of these different things, but it's just a whole new way of being. And it's a way to honor each part of you that is alive. You're not the same person week to week, and people shouldn't expect you to be. So I also like to bring this consciousness to men and everyone else so they know, hey, she's bleeding. Maybe I'll lower actually the tonation in my voice. Maybe I'll, give some more space. So it's an awareness, it's a consciousness that people are awakening to. So thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Isadora. Brigitte, I'm wondering, do you have any final words before you and I take our leave and let Isadora do her next session?
Just be kind to yourselves. Be kind to us. Love us. And just trust. Just trust. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. For me, it's very similar, and it's for those women who are in this similar place to me, kind of perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, wherever you are in that process of moving towards through into the initiation of Crone. I really just want to remind you that you are being initiated into your wise woman, into your medicine woman, into the wisdom keeper, and allow yourself to remember that. And when the heat comes, allow yourself to also remember it's the Kundalini moving through your body. It's the heat rising as she's burning off everything that no longer serves, so that you stand in the world purely as you, unapologetically you. That's the integration and the initiation that you are moving through. So thank you so much, both of you. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I really think that we could probably talk all day, as with every topic so far. But we won't. Brigitte and I are going to pop backstage again, and we are going to leave Isadora, who will be talking about heal the waters, heal the womb. Please keep your chats coming in the thread. We're really, really loving it. Oh, here we go. I also saw there's some more comments in there. We love your comments, so please keep them coming. Thank you so much, Isadora. Thank you, Brigitte. I'll pop you and
Thank you.
backstage. Thanks, honey.